I'm really looking forward to seeing Kavor's other list. I want to know what is in this beauty of a Tom Kench Aphelios deck, but that's not what we're starting with. We get the pretty standard version of Twisted Fate Fizz. So if you're not familiar with this list, it draws a lot of cards. It plays some cheap units to kind of, you know, get a little bit of chip damage in. You've got things like Poro Cannon, you've got Fizz. You're trying to get in with the elusives, and then you finish things off with either an army of Burblefish or a Mind Meld, and sometimes it's a combination of the two.
Yep. Been one of the powerhouses of these tournaments, this TFIz list. The draw power that it gives you is pretty insane, and then the level up Twisted Fate is often a game-ending level up as well. So, thinking about just trading the Fizz in here. No other unit, so it feels a bit awkward. Goes ahead not trading the Fizz, which makes plenty of sense. Having plenty of ways to activate him and get him going. Ooh.
Yeah,
So,
there's lots of ways to get this activation, and the Poro Cannon is insurance as well. So you can, whether it's start with the Poro Cannon here, or you could have saved that to be reactionary if you wanted to go a different route, but either way, you can still have a backup plan if they had some sort of target for your Fizz. Now this could be quite the daring Poro if they decide to commit it, because that means they will not have a spell back. Not that you want to play a stress testing by itself, but in theory, if you were trying to dodge like a single combat here to protect your Fizz, leaving 1 mana open would make sense. But Kavor just favoring the initial damage, wants to get that clock moving, and is successful.
yeah, and even if a single combat had been played there, you're losing a creature as well as a single combat. You're taking 2 damage still, and it's not really getting you that much of an advantage. Sure, making Fizz go away feels pretty good, but it's just not, you can't really afford to do something that slow against a deck like this that's just going to go wide and punish you.
But you would get rid of Fizz. Yordle Extermination is very satisfying.
Might be satisfying, but it's tough work. It is tough work. So
Now here, yeah, potentially going to lock in this trade because you've got the backup Fizz in hand. We can see that Playful Trickster there.
Yep. And then too, this hand is a bit awkward for Kavor here. You know, how's the iterative improvement, which usually hits Burblefish. It can hit a Daring Poro K2. Does have the Fizz, which is helpful, but it's still just awkward not having a Rummage for the stress testing, 2 Mystic Shots. It's just a bit awkward. So we'll have to see if he's able to draw into something. Doesn't have that Twisted Fate on curve, so Virtue has to have a sigh of relief seeing that, because Twisted Fate is the powerhouse of this deck, and what really makes it, you know, with the draw is what really makes it as strong as it is, including the Burblefish as well. And right now we don't see any of those factors in the hand for Kavor.
All I heard from that entire wonderful description, mind you, absolutely astute analysis, but all I heard is that Twisted Fate is the mitochondria of this deck. It is the powerhouse of the cell.
It is.
And, you know, your analysis is correct. This hand is a bit clunky. The Mystic Shots are kind of like situational removal. You're going to make the best of it here by trying to remove this. Also get that Fizz to elusive, but your other pieces are complementary. Stress testing is something you're using in conjunction, as you said, like with a Rummage and the improvement. You want better targets than what you currently have. So you're just honestly trying to, again, get as much damage in as possible. And if this is successful, it will help you along. They're just noting that they passed there, which is rather interesting. You have 7 mana passing. That means their hand might be bad, but you're just going to play this Shen post-combat.
Yep. So Shen, but no Fiora to match with it. There's another challenger, such as a Screeching Dragon. And we saw there's only 1 in this list, something that Kavor was actually noting while looking at the list, if I remember correctly, that there was only 1 Screeching Dragon in here. So that means that there isn't that mid-range beef that can start challenging these small Poros, taking care of them, and does find the Rummage, so we'll find a Twisted Fate, and also draws 3 cards due to the stress testing. So this Twisted Fate is huge. I mean, it makes the deck.
Yeah, now you are for sure playing it because it gained fleeting, so we know what the game plan is for the rest of this turn after that Mystic Shot. But yes, it's an absolute great find. With them playing this Bright Steel, you also could, if you really want to slow them down, go with something like Gold Card here. I feel like Blue Card is still going to end up being the play, but Gold Card could potentially slow things down. You're low on resources, so it's hard to not take the draw.
Yep, certainly agree with that, and the extra spell mana isn't bad either. Something that we can notice earlier, that the first Mystic Shot wasn't notified. It certainly could have been, maybe not worth it against the 3-2 at the time, but that made Kavor feel pretty confident about playing Mystic Shot onto the River Shaper as well, and the fact that it hits tells a lot about the hand here, because most likely you want to keep that River Shaper alive to draw extra resources, like for Spirit's Refuge, for instance, for gaining health. So that kind of says no Notify and no Sharp Sight most likely, but there's a chance that those could have been left through. You know, that's most likely not the case because you would want to save those for something like maybe Fiora, for instance. And the fact that there isn't a Fiora just kind of lets us know that they have some awkward hand going on now. Whether it's the Brightsteel formation could be stuck in hand, there could be concerted strikes. I mean, something odd is going on with Virtue's hand here, I think, though.
Interesting. So we're going to see the Iterative go down on a Daring just for the extra elusive pressure here. And I think this is Kavor kind of smelling blood in the water and recognizing exactly what you were just talking about. If the hand on the side of Virtue is clunky and, you know, maybe we're seeing Bright Steel and some other late game cards, maybe a Cethria or something clogging it up, why not push for an extra 6 elusive damage here if you can nail it and get them within striking distance? I like this play. You could have also potentially seen something like the bot come down and then have an improvement on that, just so that you're ramping up the ignitions for future turns. But
wow,
I am a fan of this, and I love this too. This is going to be
a rally with Twisted Fate. Oh, it's going for the lethal here. There is no deny to stop this. This is a good chance that this is lethal here.
So what you are hoping for on the side of Virtue is a single combat. If you've got that in hand and they go for the Playful Trickster, you should be able to kill the Twisted Fate and give you a bit of a reprieve.
Well, we'll have to see.
Yeah, this is looking
quite
dicey.
Curious.
I mean, you don't have mana for Deny. Notify does not stop Playful Trickster, so it essentially is going to come down to that single combat check.
And even then, so it feels a bit bad losing the Twisted Fate, but he wasn't going to level here unless you had some interesting draw sequence going on. So I want to see if this goes off. This could be insane.
I mean, it's going to be more than insane. It will be absolutely game winning. If you can't stop this, anything that would be stopping this anything, that would be stopping the elusives would likely also be stopping this Playful Trickster. Now, I guess there is something to be said about maybe they had a Sharp Sight in hand that they didn't want to blow here, but that would have felt awkward. There is the combat. Okay.
So there will not be a rally. That's a game-saving single combat there. I loved Kavor knowing that the hand was a bit awkward, though, pushing for that. And since I didn't have ways to level up Twisted Fate, I think that it's worth it. You have plenty of elusive damage for next turn. However, the Cithria does make things a little bit, a little bit tough next round, or this open attack. But the Cithria itself can be blocked pretty easily. But Riposte could spell just... Oh, that's dangerous. The one Riposte could end the game here too. Or Sharp Sight. So we went from Kavor saying, I need to push damage here, I need to win this game now, to potentially losing the game here. Just turn around that quick.
The single combat was so important because it also denied the Trickster from leveling up the Fizz. Fizz is one spell away from the level up. And that's why this Fearsome is going to go through, and it all goes back to that iterative improvement where you played it on the Poro to push the elusive damage instead of the bot, and then as a result, that also meant you didn't have ignitions for more spells, And now this Relentless Pursuit comes down, and that's going to be problematic because even with this
meld.
suit up, you are going to lose
Oh no, it's Mind Meld. It's a deny check. Has to be a deny check now.
Well...
And it goes off!
This goes off, but what I was about to say was that if you go the suit up route, because Fizz levels up, and you play the suit up on something else, you could have blocked all 3 and left yourself with 1 elusive back for the Mind Meld, which would have been for 7 potentially the next turn, but this works as well if you're trying to clean things up.
Yeah, I guess this did play into deny. I'm assuming that Kavor probably had a deny read since they tapped under it so quickly in earlier turns. A lot of players, when they have deny, they'll play a little bit slower, try to get you to tap down on your mana a bit so they can try to catch you off guard. But Virtue was tapping under deny mana down to 3 mana pretty frequently, so I think Kavor probably made that read that they probably don't have deny for that reason.
Yeah, this is in my mind a little bit problematic just because you have the blocks now, but if they've got another Relentless Pursuit.
Oh yeah,
you're still going to be running into an issue.
Which we said that the hand for Virtue had to have been clunky earlier. We know that this was the case. So, trying to save 2 things here. I was going to say, it wants to save the elusive. And then that makes Relentless Pursuit no longer be lethal here.
Yes, but this is the right read.
Yep. At the cost of all of your units, but you're alive in a, Burblefish top deck. I don't know, with a Rummage or something, maybe there's something there. Burblefish top deck, get a Rummage, discard something, get another Burblefish. There's options if there is another Relentless here. We'll see if that's the case or not. And
right.
There is not.
A bit of a reprieve going to the side of Virtue, and now with this suit up open attack, this is a sharp sight / single combat check yet again. Could also, I guess, be concerted strike. There's a number of potential answers here, but
that's it. Wow,
I didn't think there would be nothing. Oh wow, what was the hand of Virtue like?
I can't even imagine. No concerted. I mean, I feel like there has to be Brightsteel formation stuck in
it's got to be like double
Brightsteel
or something.
Wow, I was not expecting that game to end.
Of like, you have to have an answer back and forth, but I just never would have thought that there was legitimately no answer.
Oh yeah, I was never thinking that was going through. That shocked me.
Well,
wow.
now the good news is we get to see this spicy Aphelios Tom Kench list. I am really looking forward to this. And you can see the, kind of back and forth on the mulligan here. Kever, I think, is recognizing the same thing that we all have, which is that Veiled Temple is strong. You and I know, have both mentioned in the past that when we first saw the card, we were like, it looks okay. Maybe it's a little bit slow. Then in practice, it started performing better, and I'm now fully on the Temple train. That card generates so much value.
I'm very much on the Temple train, especially with the number of low-cost cards that are just so good. I mean, even look at Kavor's hand right now. Lunari Dustbringer, that card, we used to be like the Diana activator. Now it's the Aphelios activator, as well as the Temple activator. Just an insane card for this deck overall, for Aphelios decks. And discard target as well. I mean, it does everything.
And basically allowed Aphelios to walk, which allows Temple to run.
Yeah, poor. So this turn is incredibly strong. It has the Dust Petal, can play Aphelios, can play Crescendum if they would want to. Has the ability just to bank the spell mana here to be careful too, knowing that they want to keep their Aphelios alive, so Bastion will be a useful tool for that. But is opting to go for the Burst Pass, testing the opponent here. As, pretty much everyone's going to play something there.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes people take that bait. So, I get it. It might seem like a BM, a bad manners move, but technically, when you talk about mechanics, that's the right way to go. And
yeah. I mean, you're in a tournament setting, too. I mean, you take every advantage you can get, even if it looks a bit disrespectful. So the Nopify will come down here. I think the Nopify is, it's a great thing. First off, you don't have to see a Boxtopus get summoned. and as well as it doesn't create the next card at the start.
If there's an interaction that I can highlight that talks about the power of Aphelios, it's actually that one right there. Aphelios came down on turn 3, generated you a spell, and that spell is essentially a free spell that eats a Nopify, because if it goes off, it's absolutely bonkers. So just by playing Aphelios and doing the one spell, you ate a Nopify, which is a very powerful tool in this matchup. And you still have the Boxtopus in your deck. You've got this additional one in hand. You ended up with Aphelios on the board. Like, that is such a net positive outcome when it comes to resources and tempo. And here, holding the 3 mana back for a Hush interaction as well.
Yep. Love this because if Fiora wants to kill Aphelios, something has to be pre-committed, such as the Sharp Sight, unless you just allow them to take the trade for free, which the Fiora player might consider that against Aphelios, as it will stop and stun and heal and do everything in the book to stop you from winning the game. But if you do pre-commit, the Hush is there and ready to ruin your day, essentially. So you can just take a 2-1 instead, and that's a much safer play. So we'll see what Virtue decides to do here. It looks like that is going to be the play.
Yep, locked in now. And that's the right read with the 3 mana up. It's frustrating because Aphelios is just staring at you and it's problematic and you want to get rid of it. But this is the right call. Now, the good news for Kavor is that by dodging the Fiora attack this round, yes, you could have committed your Hush to ensure that it goes through, but you still ultimately lose the Aphelios in that trade. But just by threatening the Hush and it going this route, next turn you're going to have so many ways to keep your Aphelios alive and up and running. They could play the Boxtopus here. They are going to go with that, it would seem. Another option could have been banking the spell mana and then going into like a temple cheap stuff refill the following turn. That's why these Aphelios lists, I think, are so versatile, but also so frustrating to play against, is that the lines of play and the order in which they play cards are quite a bit to think about.
Yes, they are a bit tricky at times. Important to note that the Aphelios got the Calibrum, which is most likely going to be taking care of this 3-2. As Virtue, you can't really afford to play a Nopify onto this. I mean, if you do, maybe you have a third one in hand, but there's just so many things that these weapons are going to do in the future that you're going to need a Nopify for. And I might be seeing the Nopify here. I sure don't think we'd see a deny here, but I could be wrong.
So this also could be something like a single combat. Yep, I was just about to say, where if it's about to die, you take the shot at the Aphelios. And so now it's a Bastion check that could be answered by another single combat or something like Concerted Strike.
Yeah, I mean, Kavor could be in a bit of a pickle here, because once this Bastion is committed, that is all spell mana is gone, so there's no other options here. And if this spell shield can be popped, and I guess an additional damage would also have to go through, Aphelios will die. But the fact that Bastion gives +1/1 as well helps him out tremendously here. Where if there's something else to pop, that'd be problematic. Concerted Strike would be huge though. You'd let this resolve and then play Concerted after. You give Fiora proc, and there's no way that they can counter it. So if there's a Concerted Strike in hand for Virtue, that's huge. But
you lose your Fiora because that's going to eat all of your mana, and there's still a Boxtopus with an attack token on the side of Kavor. So
yeah, I mean, sure, you lose your Fiora, but at that point though, she's still at least a level 2, so she's better in the future, and you've gotten rid of the Aphelios, which is the generator. And although, first you can't see the hand of Kavor right now, we can see the hand, and there is a little bit of draw option, but it's a pretty slow hand, and doesn't give too much. Wow, actually doesn't even go for the Fiora here. Says, you're going to waste your 5 mana? Okay, you can do that.
Yeah, interesting. You just say, okay, I'll move on. Go to the next round. Maybe I can get Temple up and running. My hand is clunky anyway. Let's not draw this out. Let's not give you more opportunities. I actually think that's entirely reasonable by Kavor by a long shot.
You are tapped out of mana, and your opponent passed with plenty of mana to play with, including mana that could have, killed your Aphelios. That has to feel fantastic. I mean, that's a gift.
So Cytherea comes down on the side of Virtue. And this is a great time for you to play that Gravitum that you've been sitting on. Really slows the momentum.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I think this Fiora's time is limited. I don't know how much longer she's gonna last.
It certainly feels that way. There's honestly a lot of momentum that's going to the side of Kavor at the moment because the Aphelios continues to hang out. So that value engine that you and I have been talking about is just chugging along, right? It's a train and it's going along nice and steady, and you can see it in the card differential. They might be a bit clunky, but Kavor is, you know, almost double the amount of cards in hand right now. Has lots of healing options, still has that temple they've yet to develop, at which point things can really start to run away. Burblefish is one spell away from hitting that very important 0 cost mark.
Yeah, and this has got to be the temple turn now, I would think. I mean, you just have so much space. The only thing you have to be a little bit worried about is Relentless Pursuit potential. You don't want to develop something slow like a Veiled Temple and then get punished by that. But with this hand, as well as having a Crescendum in hand too, you know that you're okay. You got the, the cheap Burblefish, you got the Hush, get out of jail free card. I mean, you got a lot going for you here.
Yeah, I don't think you're really worried about Relentless Pursuit because you hit that Gravitum the turn before as well. So even just sitting here, Cytherea is not going to be effective if the Pursuit does come down. So this is just all development. This is free real estate, as they say, for Kavor. And they can lock down another follower here as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're going to spend any resources to save this Bright Steel Protector unless you just really are fearing this attack. The board is slowly becoming scary on the side of Kavor, and that could be a concern.
Yeah, this attack is looking pretty brutal. Even has the Burblefish, has some mana to play with. It doesn't get too much better of a spot for the Aphelios deck. You got your Temple down, you got your Aphelios down, that's about to level, and you got a couple draw cards here and there too. It doesn't get much better. You have a Star Shaping just in case something does go wrong. It's just all looking good on the side of Kavor here.
You know, with the Aphelios leveling here and a Burblefish, it's entirely possible you could still generate another moon weapon as well between the 0 and then the 1 cost card that it's going to create. Like, this value train has not entered the station yet. It is still chugging along, and that's actually that's an interesting 1-drop to pick up there as well.
Yeah, the You Be Warned can decide to kill whatever you want, essentially. It is important to know that Virtue does have 6 mana to work with here. We could see things like the Concerted Strike, we might see single combat, Sharp Sight. I mean, there's a lot of options here. Be interesting to see what the play is. I assume protecting this Fiora is high priority, and ideally protecting Fiora while getting a kill for her as well to level her up and add an extra health point.
Concerted Strike was, I think, the real fear because you don't have a way to buff your Aphelios, but honestly that Spirit's Refuge coming down has got to feel pretty good, because if you want, you could pop a Hush here and then that would force them to have something else. Really, it would have to be a Sharp Sight.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure we've done a couple Sharp Sight checks at this point, so yeah, it's not looking good for, even with the Sharp Sight, you kill the Boxpus, you don't keep your Fiora alive either. So, not a good spot for Virtue. I think Kavor will be running away with this game. I mean, he already is, but, you know, just quicker, faster. Make this game end, I guess.
Yeah, if I have one disappointment right now, it's simply that we haven't seen Tom Kench. Because
this is a Tom Kench deck?
Yes, this is the Aphelios Tom Kench list, but it's interesting because this plays very similar to Aphelios Twisted Fate, but I feel like Kavor recognized the thing that we had talked about before, where if you put Aphelios and Twisted Fate in the same deck, it limits your tournament pool. So by just tossing in Tom Kench, it still works.
And I think, too, it's also an anti-TF Aphelios list in most cases, because Tom Kinch, when paired with Soraka, has been one of the anti-meta decks, and the reason being is that you don't have, as TF and Aphelios, you don't have ways to stop Tom from eating your units. And with this deck, you can have Tom Kinch, and you can just eat the opponent's TF and Aphelios, and heal it up, protect it, do what you need to do. So I wonder if this deck list has a pretty solid matchup into other TF Aphelios lists, and it was probably another factor besides, not overlapping the two strongest champs in the game, but also considering to have the anti-anti deck, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you can essentially include more control options. You could drop pick a card, for example, because you're not worried about leveling up your Twisted Fate. And then you also, if a temple starts buffing Tom Kench and it gets huge, Tom Kench gets to eat whatever he wants forever. Like, he's just at an all-you-can-eat buffet at that point. So I really do like this decision to bring this deck in the tournament. I think this is a very heads-up call.
Yeah, I think, it makes plenty of sense to me. I think it's a really solid choice. Hovering that star shaping there, perhaps thinking about, all right, let's start ending this game. I don't want to play with my food here, and I don't want to, have a misstep that doesn't need to happen as well. So the star shaping would give the selection of a 7+ cost celestial spell or unit to potentially end the game here. But probably won't be using that at 19 health unless they really feel like they can find something that's going to be ending the game. Like a Great Beyond, for instance. Which, at 5 health, most big elusive units will end the game here. Immortal Fire is another good choice.
Yeah, Immortal Fire would be great in this matchup.
Yeah. So the Gravitum is being thrown onto the Cytheria. This could be a Noble Fire denied, potentially, if the opponent feels like they need the Cytheria to be able to block against the Aphelios. And with Kavor still being at 7 mana, Virtue doesn't know how much more development's going to happen here.
Yeah, the concern would be if you spend too much in defense of this Gravitum, so they are going to go with the deny. In theory, Kavor could drop a bunch of units and then transition into an open attack. Now, again, we know that's not really the case at the moment, but you can understand the hesitation before playing this deny. Also, it just doesn't really feel good to spend 4 mana and a powerful tool like Deny on this 1-cost moon weapon that got generated for free. It's not the return on your investment that you want. That's like buying into GameStop stock and then selling it after the crash.
Yep, and we are about to see Value Town just go through Crescendums, Gravitons. Your opponent has no mana, you can do whatever you want, it's just a free-for-all party here. Gonna get another Box to pull the remaining Shin to push lethal on the open attack next turn. I might as well just heal a bit here too, draw another card, we got, it doesn't matter at this point, this game is over. But still making sure that gives the best way, or best chances of lethal here. Adding an extra attacker can certainly help.
This Serpent is so brutal because not only do you now have 2 challengers, but you can also still play this Gravitum as like the ultimate slap in the face. Okay, you used your deny on 1, by the way, have another, and then you just have this big board. Like I kind of feel bad for Virtue because I feel like they didn't have much they could do. That first game, it felt like their hand was not great. I know we couldn't see it, but you could just tell from the play patterns that something was off. And then this time around, the value engine of Aphelios got up early. There was no answer. And unfortunately, the longer the game goes with an unchecked Aphelios, even more with a temple on the board, you can't recover from that. You have to have answers, and Virtue did not have them when he needed them.
Yep, and we also remember how we're like, Kavor can't really go wide this turn. Well, proved us wrong on that. I mean, but I don't really think there's too much Virtue could do in this game. I can't look at anything and be like, ooh, they made a mistake here where they should have done this or should have done that. It just kind of seems another game how the cards fell, and Kavor also playing a fantastic game on their end as well. Bit surprised to see the hesitation this attack. Trying to think between the 3 cards, was it like double single combat and a concerted or something that could maybe stop the lethal? And even then, though, you get maybe a star shaping and, you know, finish, but no, there's no answer here.
Yeah.
It'd have
I
to
mean,
be some crazy card combo to actually
even
stop this lethal.
I was just gonna say, like, even if they were running something really non-traditional, I didn't take a look at the top end of the list when he was scanning earlier, but if there was like a one of judgment or something, Shen still can't kill the Aphelios even with a judgment.